Sometimes the problem in the garden is not necessarily your fault. And today we're going to talk about this garden bed right here, in which I put the worst soil in it. It all starts with your soil. In this case, it is my fault, but we're going to improve it. And these are the steps I'm going to take. So what's the deal with this bed? Well, first things first, this is a new bed. This is a Vego garden bed. And actually, just to kind of prove what I'm doing in this video, I'm going to continue to plant this no matter what the soil is. I just added this trellis on here. Man, it's 8 screws. It's super easy. This is our new herb garden for the year. And when we put this in, we put it in last minute. And I didn't have a great plan as far as acquiring soil. And the soil that I ended up getting was not good. I have a place that I go to get all my soil exclusively, but in this one instance, I needed somebody else to bring it to me, and they just didn't know any better, so they brought some not so good soil. But I knew it right when I saw it, and I formulated a plan to do this. So let's go over and see how this soil is now, what we're doing to change it, and how we're going to do it throughout the season. So when I say this is bad soil, I mean essentially, yes, this is mint. And yes, it's buried in a pot right here, but you can see that is just compacted soil. And you know, a bed of soil that's been there for 3 months shouldn't be that compacted, right? And it's just going to continue to get worse. So we've got to make it and improve it to be better and better. What is it doing? What is the problem? Well, the problem is it's holding too much water, right? And yeah, you could say add sand to it, but I hesitate to add sand to anything just because you can go overboard, and there's a better method to do it, which we're going to get into. But it's holding too much water, which means it could cause root rot. You know, if we got like heavy rains or something, the only way to mitigate it would be to cover this bed. So we could do that. Now, this is a tall garden bed, and it's not filled all the way up to the top with soil. There's a divider about right here that goes all the way across, and so it's only half of the space is available to fill. So that works out in our favor because we don't have to do a whole lot, and there's not as much soil in here that we're going to have to fix. But I don't want to pull everything out. I don't want to change what I'm doing. I just want to build this soil in place. So this is where all the people that watched the compost video where I said you don't need as much compost as you think are going to be surprised. And the reason why I say that is because a lot of people just didn't listen to the main message, and they thought I was saying you don't need compost. That's not true. You don't need to rely on compost, but this is a perfect situation in which compost is a good thing to add to your soil. Still within moderation though. The first line of defense if you've got bad soil is simply planting in it. I know it seems crazy and counterproductive, but we want to continue to plant in here because these roots are going to work the soil. If, you know, for instance, some of these are perennial, but like these basils, for instance, when they're done for the year, if I cut them and leave the roots in, they'll rot, and then they will create pockets within the garden bed that'll be good for, you know, the dill is the same way. And the perennials, you know, so this is a perennial and this is a perennial, those roots will continue to spread and cause water channels, which will help nutrients flow back and forth, which is a big thing with this soil because right now it's not going to help nutrients go back and forth. The benefit of that is these herbs don't need a lot of nutrients. They actually are more pungent when you don't give them a lot of nutrients. So that works out in our favor. But, and I don't know if I said this earlier in the video, I kind of spaced, but this was essentially fill dirt, which is the dirt that they put around the house, minus like the rocks and stuff in it. So it's just really thick dirt. Second line of defense is going to be your mulch. So remember, we're always building soil. So even though this is still not the best soil, as of right now, in the situation we're in, we are building soil, and that's really important to think about and remember. So this will break down. If we move it, you can see that up top, that's already what's broken down from it, because as soon as you get any smaller, it gets to be compacted. So it is starting to break down, and I know that this has gotten less over the season. So that is the first thing. Now, what I'm gonna do at some point, this doesn't have to be a rush job. You don't have to go through it super fast, but we need to be sure throughout this year and the next growing season that we are consistently adding to the garden bed, a good weeding in. But we are going to come back in and we're going to put our alfalfa pellets in that we put in the rest of our garden, and we're just going to lay it on top. That's going to give us that organic matter that's going to break down slowly. It's green when we put it in. It will feed the plants to some extent, but it will absolutely help with this because it's going to break down, and that organic matter will end up breaking up this soil to an extent. How much do you put in? I would probably put in about 1/4 of a bag almost, because we do absolutely want to, 1/5 to 1/4 of a bag, somewhere in there. We absolutely want to load this up so it'll start to break down. And remember, it takes time to break down. So it has to get wet, and then it's going to start to break down. It's going to crumble, and then it will decompose into the garden. But not at the same time, let's say a couple weeks later, make sure everything's broken up. That's when we're gonna add our compost. Not only are we gonna add our compost, we're gonna add it right on top. And so essentially what we're doing is lasagna gardening at this point, to an extent, not by definition, but in the fact of we're gonna put a layer on and then put another layer on and another one, but it's not as deep as a lasagna garden needs to be, but we still wanna put it in there. So you see how much of the bed I left here? I did not put any more soil in because once I saw what was going on, I anticipated having to fix it. So we have some wiggle room here. So I've got a good 4 or 5 inches. I can come up with some actual quality soil at some point if need be. Now's not the time because everything's growing. So we're just going to be amending it in place. But once we get that compost on top, then we come back and then we also put mulch on top of that. You could even get some nice topsoil. Just get this is a 4x8 bed. So I would say a simple bag of topsoil, something that's not total crap, but just a little bit to help, because what that's going to do is that's going to give it more consistency as it starts to break down and help it to retain a little bit of water. So you could mix in like a bag on top of that. Cost you like $5, right? Not a big deal. Then we're going to mulch again. Mulching on top of everything is going to really help because this mulch is going to break down a lot faster because the moisture is going to be trapped on it, and then it's going to cause it to break down and crumble. Then on top of that, when we put the mulch on top of that, it's going to keep the compost moist, which is a very key ingredient to this, is keeping it moist so that it will decompose into the ground like it's supposed to and not be chunky and cause issues. To be clear, I'm not putting 3 inches of compost in here. I'll probably put 1 inch of compost in, and then a bag of topsoil in, and then the mulch on top of that. And then in the winter time is when I'm going to come back, and depending on this bed, I may have to lift these perennials out. So if we have to, we'll lift them, but I'm going to put quality topsoil in here, and I will turn it at the same time, not completely, but just get a shovel's length down, get it and turn it over so that everything mixes, and then we'll start this whole process next year, and it'll just continue to get better and better year after year. It takes time. This is not a quick process, but it's not a death note either for your garden. I mean, you can still grow, you can still take care of it, and you can still harvest, but you just need to understand that at first, the first year, it may struggle. The second year, get a little bit better, and by the third year, you're gonna be good to go. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's like, hey, it'll be easier just to pull all that out and put it in, but I don't want to do that kind of work. I've got this planted, I'm producing already, I'm harvesting from it. I don't want to ruin that at this time of the season, so this is the best option for me. And just if you're wondering if I've ever done this before this was the pond, I absolutely it's funny, I had the exact same dirt in all 4 beds, and I was amending it and amending it and amending it. and it had gotten better and better, but the sun here wasn't really working out like we wanted. That's why we moved the garden beds over here, and I wanted to consolidate. But we were amending and amending and amending and mulching and planting, and it was getting better and better until we decided to pull the plug. I think that was just a nail in the coffin. So I am still going to be planting in this bed. We're going to plant some cucumbers, which I have in my pocket somewhere. I have a bunch of crap in my pockets right now. So we're going to put some of these Max Pack cucumbers in. And the space, I didn't anticipate putting a trellis on here, but we're going to just kind of put them wherever we plug and play. And then as the vines grow, we'll spread them out and just train them to go the way we want. But I say this because I am continuing to plant in this bed, seeds and all. We're continuing to plant, and we're not going to stop. And that's the same thing that's the first thing to do, is just plant. Plant, mulch, go down the line, and you're going to take care of it, and your garden's going to improve. And you can even do all of this in a micro level to your main garden. It's the same thing I do out there. And also add fertilizer. Another thing that I've tried as a closing note, and I've not done, I don't know if this works or not, but compost tea, if you make it, can actually charge the organisms and cause them to help break the soil down faster. So that's one thing we did out there, and it worked. But again, it just kind of drug in all of the weird animals and stuff that dig in my garden, so we had to stop. But we're not above doing it again if we had to. So it's not always your fault. You can fix it. You just got to take time. It's not going to be quick. It's going to be a slow process, but you're going to be able to grow and enjoy in this meantime. So get your soil fixed.